Okay, I believe this is the first Eater's Digest that must start with a content warning for self harm. This is my moment to allow people to skip away. Willow, thank you for being here today. It's impossible for me to talk about food news without talking about the stories that get eerily closer to my home. Did you hear about the guy who drove through bikini beans here in Tempe who just went viral on TikTok?
I have a very limited amount of knowledge about this. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what happened?
So this is one of those coffee shops where the women who serve you the coffee wear bikinis. I don't know how common that is. I guess we live near ASU where it's a very college town. Is that common where you're from?
I had a feeling that maybe something like this existed out there. I have never encountered it personally. However, the kind of remote town that I live in did used to have a fully topless drive-through coffee shop. So it gets even weirder, I guess.
There was somebody who was in the parking lot who was acting a little shady, perhaps doing some lewd acts to himself. And so when he pulled up to the drive-through, the manager of that store was already recording, saying like, "Hey, have you been here before?" He says yes, and the camera peers in, and the guy's not wearing any pants. She says, "You have to leave." He drives away. Then it becomes a viral TikTok. Later that night, he does end his own life. His family comes to the Bikini Beans, furious with the owner, saying like, "What have you done?" Then the internet reaction has been completely torn about who's at fault for this, and then this guy is now like a meme. There's a whole new word called goonicide, and there's this whole thing happening where like now people are coming to the local Bikini Beans and taking pictures from the drive-through being like, all right, let's see if this is worth it because I heard this is like to die for. And it's like I have never seen a story that is more of, it's like the ultimate convergence of sex, mental illness, male loneliness, commerce, social media, like all of these things converged into a guy becoming a meme, dying, sex workers being discussed in some way. I don't even know if this counts as sex work. Probably not. It's just like a little step above a Hooters. But it's like, I think this is the sort of story that becomes normalized in a way that makes me feel insane because this is like the ultimate contemporary modern day story, down to the fact that it's like a funny meme format now for when something goes right in your life, they play the video of the guy driving off in reverse. What is your reaction to something like this?
I don't even know where to begin. This is yeah, like you said, I think this is kind of like the uh God, I don't even know how to respond to this.
Right. Now imagine that happened very close to where you live, and we had like the guy spraying pesticides on the bananas at the Walmart near me, the lady doing a micro bakery scam really close to me. This is getting a little too close for comfort.
Yeah, maybe it's time to move. I know you've moved houses several times in the last years, but
Yeah,
Jesus, I
it's
I I'm sympathetic to this man's family. I understand that that's a really difficult thing to watch your family member go through on the internet and then meet an early death.
yeah, it's hard to react because there's no winners, there's no like easy to blame target. It's like this person was doing a criminal activity. It was posted online. He became a meme before the sun even set that day, and it's like these are the consequences of our modern world, it seems, where you have hypersexualized restaurants recording criminal customers becoming online sensations, and it's just wild.
It's really a perfect example of just how fast things move on the internet. It's crazy that this all happened in such a short period of time, less than 24 hours, I think. Um, I I'm baffled by the whole thing. I think, yeah, there are no winners. It seems like in some way almost everyone is in the wrong. Um, I hate the internet. That's where I am with this.
I know I usually start the show with like a short question or story, but this one I had to mention. I'm sorry if I cut into your first story. Do you want to tell me what that was going to be?
Our first story this week I had was that America's favorite grocery store is a convenience store. In a recent study from YouGov, a market research and analytics firm, 7-Eleven was named the most popular grocery store in the United States. Their list of the top 30 grocery stores was determined based on popularity and overall fame. And 7-Eleven not only took the top spot, but stood out as the only convenience store named among more traditional grocery chains.
I saw in your research that Costco and Walmart did not count as grocery stores, presumably because they also sell merchandise and furniture. But at that point, you just got to wonder who is YouGov and who are they to decide? Like, I'd love to find out what it was that delineated what's a grocery store and what's not, because they sell toothpaste and motor oil at a 7-Eleven. So why can't the others count?
Yeah, it's incredibly confusing to me. I saw a little bit of discourse as far as like what like credit card companies will flag as groceries versus not groceries, but that doesn't even factor in here because 7-Eleven gets flagged as a grocery store, not a grocery store, as a gas station and not a grocery store. And I guess in some areas or some credit card companies do flag Walmart as a grocery store and some don't. It's very confusing. It reminds me a little bit of our fast food conversation last week. And I just can't help feel like this is bad data. 7-Eleven isn't a grocery store. And even in a list of top convenience stores that I found, 7-Eleven did not even make the top 5 convenience stores for people. So I don't know how it possibly could have made the number one grocery store.
Yeah, I'm happy to count this as a non-starter of a story, especially because if it were true, it would be equally depressing, if not more so. And so to follow up my bummer of a story with this, I say we just move on to the next one. Give me something good, please.
The FDA wants nutrition front and center. The FDA has recently proposed a potential change for packaged foods that would require manufacturers to display a smaller, secondary nutrition facts label on the front of the package. These labels would offer sodium, sugar, and saturated fat content at a glance in the form of percent daily values, with the aim being to assist shoppers in making quicker, healthier choices.
This seems a little similar to the conversation we had 1 or 2 weeks ago about labels on alcohol saying this causes cancer, which is something that presumably we all kind of know. I don't know if you've been to Mexico, but the laws there require you to say in a big, I think, octagon that's like a lot of fat in this, a lot of sugar in this. And so you go to a convenience store and you'll see like popsicles and Cheetos, and they all have like 3 octagons on them being like high fat, high salt, high sugar. It doesn't seem to really slow anybody down. Those products still appear to sell. They have certainly not gone out of business. And so, as silly as it sounds, but if there was like a meme department of the FDA where they were just going on TikTok and being like, guys, isn't it so silly to eat a lot of fat, sugar, and salt? I see things like, I forget what the NPR, I think, has some kind of money show where they hire a young man to do TikToks about money and like money education and financial news. And that, I think, does a pretty good job at moving the needle in regards to young people understanding the news and how financial systems work. And so, as bizarre as it sounds, I think the ways in which people eat in our country is a cultural issue. People like us eat things like this. And if you want to do a cultural shift, I don't think the bureaucracy of having more labels is realistically going to do anything.
I'm right there with you. I was very tempted to feel cynical about this. You know, everybody knows that potato chips have a lot of salt. Everybody knows that ice cream has a lot of sugar and fat. Um, But I do think that there is kind of an undeniable psychological component to having something put right in front of you. I don't know that it would necessarily like affect the sales of these products that greatly. I think at the end of the day, people are going to make the choices that they want to make. But I do think that there is probably some level of impact to putting that information front and center in a way that is kind of small and easily digestible without pouring through all of the nutrition facts on the label. I think there could be some benefit to that, though I don't think it would be significant. I think that you might be onto something there as far as the TikTok ability or the meme ability of something like that, as far as creating like more education or cultural changes around it. But at the same time, I think there is so much health information on the internet, whether that is realistic health information or not, that putting that to that form is not always going to reach the intended audience.
Right. If trust in governmental systems is low, then implementing more labels doesn't really solve the problem. And I think a similar idea was when, YouTube will pop up and be like, according to the US Census, this or this. Like whenever you have any controversial words in the title, description, or thumbnail, something will pop up and be like, just so you know, these are the facts. And it's like the people who are unlikely to believe those facts see that as just all the more reason to distrust the facts. I don't know. I guess the one subset of people who will be happy about this is the people who are in my YouTube Shorts comments whenever I post anything that's just like, did you guys know that this isn't actual cream or this isn't actual butter? And people are like, this really has to be. The government needs to take care of this and let us know. Like, okay, they already do. It's in the nutritional facts, but maybe putting this more front and center will make those people a little more happy. And if it works out, I am happy to say that I am wrong. One quick break and we'll be right back. This episode of Eater's Digest is brought to you by patreon.com/Shaq. You'll notice that this show is not monetized. You'll notice that we do not have advertisers. The show is entirely possible due to the support at this website. Please visit patreon.com/Shaq if you'd like to provide some support as well. It's also where you can sign up for free and get a newsletter version of this show delivered to your email inbox every Friday morning. That comes with links to all of the sources, supporting text, and Willow's notes that she took when she was researching the project. That is patreon.com/Shaq. See you there.
Starbucks slams their open door policy shut. Beginning January 27th, Starbucks will enforce a new policy requiring customers to make a purchase if they wish to use the bathrooms or remain inside the cafe to work, relax, or use Wi-Fi. This policy change comes as a part of an overall effort from the company to improve customer experience at a time when Starbucks is seeing declining sales, falling stock prices, and vocal boycotts.
It was my understanding that you had to buy something regardless, but that's just because I'm a frequent public bathroom user that maybe I just do that. I'll just go up to the counter and be like, I'm going to buy something, give me the code. But it's been a long while since I've been to any Starbucks in any location, whether it's like in the middle of a road trip or in my local neighborhood where there isn't a lock on the door anyway. So I don't really understand what this achieves other than a higher level of hostility. What's the idea here?
I think the idea is that, it sounds like Starbucks is maybe losing out on sales right now, and they don't want homeless people or rowdy teenagers coming in and taking up space in their cafes, disturbing other customers. I've worked in retail. I haven't worked for Starbucks. I've worked for Dunkin' Donuts, which is a very similar company. And, I have encountered those problems as an employee before, and I understand that it is a real issue. But at the end of the day, I think big corporations like Starbucks can afford to kind of take on that responsibility. I think when you compare somewhere like Starbucks to like a mom and pop coffee shop, I think it makes more sense for the mom and pop coffee shop to say, hey, if you want to use our bathrooms, if you want to use our space, you need to purchase something here. I think Starbucks has the ability to take on that burden. And I think that it's a responsibility they should take on. I think people should be able to use public bathrooms.
Right. That's something that I will stake my claim on at all times as an IBS haver, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. What strikes me as odd about this is that public sentiment, from my perspective, seems to have been growing towards we miss the comfy chairs of like old school Starbucks where I could just show up and hang out. Like there's really no bar like experience that doesn't serve alcohol in current day America. And so I would have expected a more come as you are, hang out as long as you want experience, because it's also my understanding that most of the people who show up at Starbucks are like running in to pick up their mobile order and then running out. So to offer a more relaxed space for the people who are deliberately looking for a space to hang out seems like a really golden opportunity. That's just coming from a consumer. I could be completely wrong and I don't understand, the actual data behind that, but I'm hoping for and I'm expecting for someone to show up and say, this is going to be the comfortable place to hang out. And you don't necessarily have to order something, come in and get out.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I understand that this doesn't come for no reason from Starbucks, but I think that it's not a good enough reason. I think that when you have a space like that where, people think of Starbucks as a place that, I can go take my laptop and hunker down and work from Starbucks for 4 hours. And well, I'm sure the majority of people that are doing that do probably go in and buy a coffee and sit down for a while. I think that having that public space available, whether it is so people who can't afford to pay for internet access at home can go get internet access somewhere, people who are on a road trip can stop and use the bathroom. I think that it's important to have these things in public spaces, and I think that they're becoming harder and harder to find. And for a big name like Starbucks to make this decision sets a larger tone, and I don't like it.
Yeah. At my old house, I remember seeing a guy set up a full desktop PC at the McDonald's next to the bathroom. And my first reaction to that was like, wow, this must be a pillar of the community, this McDonald's, for somebody to be this comfortable showing up with that. But I don't know. There's also something to be said about the fact that, like, this is a place that sells a diuretic. You should be expected to use the bathroom there, whether you're a customer or not. Right now, Quick Trip QT is like number one. I can always expect to be able to run in, find a comfortable place, and use their urinals or toilets. But if there was a number two, no pun intended, it would have to be Starbucks. Like, there's a place that serves coffee. This is a place that needs to have a bathroom available. And yeah, I just a little disappointing, and definitely cheapens the brand in my mind, especially because they seemingly have enough money to offer a free service to everybody anyway. It's sort of like if they started charging for water. Just comes off as cheap, not cool, not chill, and more annoying than anything else.
Let me tell you about some new products that we have coming up this week. I have for you Light Strike Hard Refreshers, Strawberry Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Progresso Soup Drops.
I should disclose that Light Strike Hard Refreshers is owned by New Belgium, which I was sponsored by Voodoo Ranger for all of 2024. Now that it's January, that's no longer relevant, and I sure am yammering a lot about this. But all that to say, I wouldn't blame you for being suspicious about why I'm so excited about Light Strike Hard Refreshers, but these do excite me a little bit. You mentioned that these are like the culmination of every yuppie CPG brand right now. Do you still feel that way?
It really does feel like that. You know, the branding has these bright neon colors and these big bold fonts. It looks exactly like a bottle of Prime Energy. It really feels like they are hitting all the marks. For a hard product, I will say it very much is in packaging that looks like it's maybe geared towards a younger audience. I think that people might be a little bit critical of that. But conceptually, I think it's a great idea. I think combining alcohol with a hydrating element is a no-brainer. Trader Joe's sells these yuzu coconut waters that I have used as a cocktail mixer many times, and they are delicious and refreshing, and I love it. I don't think I would reach for this personally, simply on the basis that it reminds me way too much of Prime, but I think that it's not a bad idea.
You were once again way ahead of your time with the yuzu coconut alcohol mixer. But I guess I should explain that the hard refresher is a coconut water with alcohol in it. I think that was their main slip up, is that they're just calling it hard refresher. Like, what is it? Is it a seltzer? Is it carbonated? I think they could have been a little bit more specific. I don't mind the way that it looks kind of like Prime. I say we take back bright colors from the children and use them for our own purposes. And whenever I did like go to an activation or something with the Voodoo Ranger people, it's like, you're out there drinking these giant IPAs, and they introduced hard charged tea, which is like a twisted tea. It was actually quite good, but a little too sweet to enjoy. More than one. I also think they were like 9% ABV, which is insane. But anytime I would go to these activations, the people there were like, wow, thank goodness we have something to drink other than these extreme IPAs. And I think these hard refreshers will provide even more respite when they have to do something out in the sun. The Strawberry Cinnamon Toast Crunch, it's going to be a pass for me. It's like Cinnamon Toast Crunch is such an iconic flavor on its own that adding more things to it just dilutes the brand.
Yeah, I can't see any way that a strawberry cinnamon cereal would be that appealing or successful. I certainly don't think it would be disgusting, but it's not two flavors that I personally would like think to put together like that. 7 or 8 years ago, Cinnamon Toast Crunch did come out with a strawberry toast crunch cereal. I don't think it was very successful. I never knew that it existed until I was researching this new product. It looked more like the French Toast Crunch in that it was like little toast pieces with stuff on the outside. This looks more like a straightforward strawberry flavored Cinnamon Toast Crunch, which sounds like a worse idea than their unsuccessful one from years ago. So I can't say I'm that thrilled about this.
I think the real head scratcher here is the Progresso soup drops because it does sound like a fantastic idea, like a Hall's lozenge that you can suck on that tastes like the comforting flavor of chicken noodle soup, which you crave when you're sick. The problem lies within the fact that it's Progresso making this. Whereas if it was like something that you saw at a farmer's market where you know it was made with like good gelatinous chicken stock or like real natural flavors, or my hopes are so high but my expectations are so low that it'll just taste like some kind of too salty condensed soup candy. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that it probably tastes like sucking on a Boolean cube. I think that it sounds gross. I think that the idea of a savory hard candy is not an area that we need to open up, whether it's Progresso or anybody else.
I'm hoping that somebody sees this, some sort of TikTok influencer, starts selling them, and gets a lot of great success because this is one of those products that I think is a great idea that needs a more local, less corporate execution. I have high hopes for this category of product, but not for this first iteration. Eater's Digest is published every Friday on YouTube, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. You can also get a text-based version delivered to your email every Friday at patreon.com/shack.